What have you learned as you've gone along? You know, you've traveled a lot of roads, crossed a lot of rivers, been in a lot of trouble. What have you learned?
I've learned that we're all pretty much alike. No matter where you live or what you look like, we're all pretty much the same.
Willie Nelson may be country music's most laid-back legend, but even he has his limits. Despite his easygoing image, he's had his fair share of behind-the-scenes drama.
You have to take some satisfaction in knowing that you're partly, maybe mainly responsible for that.
As humble as I am, a lot of things that happened that I didn't think I'd live to see. It's already happening.
From heated disputes over stolen songs to outrageous stories involving animals gone rogue, some of these feuds turned shockingly personal. These aren't just minor disagreements, they're memorable moments in country music history. Here are 10 singers Willie Nelson couldn't stand, and some will truly surprise you. Number 10. Hank Williams Jr. Willie Nelson and Hank Williams Jr. came from the same country roots, but stood on opposite sides of its evolution. Hank Jr. held tight to tradition, preaching discipline and Southern pride. Willie became the face of the outlaw movement, with long hair, weed, and rebellion. While Willie embraced change, Hank Jr. saw it as a threat. He didn't hide his disapproval, especially when it came to Willie's hippie image. Hank Jr. often mocked Willie's appearance and lifestyle in interviews and on stage. He criticized Willie's substance use, called his bandana silly, and dismissed his music as unfocused. Their clash wasn't about talent, it was about values. To Hank, Willie broke the rules that made country music what it was. But Willie didn't bite back, staying calm and refusing to feed the fire. Privately, though, the jabs hit a nerve. Willie never enjoyed being the punchline in Hank Jr.'s jokes. He believed in freedom, musically and personally, and saw Hank's attacks as narrow-minded. In one of his interviews, Willie said, "We all walk our own path," a calm but clear reference to critics like Hank. He never named names, but fans knew who he meant. A lesser-known detail adds depth to this Cold War. In 1981, Hank Jr. reportedly told a magazine, "Willie's what happens when Nashville lets the lunatics run the asylum." That quote reached Willie's circle, and it stuck. It wasn't just teasing anymore. It felt like a personal insult. Willie never responded, but those close to him say he didn't forget it. This wasn't a loud feud, but it was a deep one. It wasn't about one incident. It was a clash of worlds. Willie stood for freedom and change. Hank Jr. stood for rules and roots. Their silent standoff marked a turning point in country music's identity crisis. He looked squeaky clean on stage, but behind the scenes, Glen Campbell dismissed Willie's sound as too raw for TV. Number 9. Glen Campbell. Glen Campbell was the face of clean-cut country music. He wore sharp suits, smiled for TV, and sang smooth ballads made for radio. His style was polished, safe, and built for the mainstream. Willie Nelson, on the other hand, showed up with long hair, jeans, and an attitude that didn't follow the rules. To Glen, that look felt like a threat to what country music was supposed to be. Their tension never exploded, but it showed in subtle ways. Glen once said, "It's not about how you look, it's about how you sing." Many took it as a jab at Willie's scruffy image and outlaw brand. Glen valued presentation and polish. Willie cared more about feeling and freedom. That difference created a quiet wall between them. Willie never clapped back publicly, but he felt the distance. He'd worked hard to earn his place, and comments like Glen's made him feel dismissed. Willie believed every artist had the right to be themselves, even if that meant breaking the mold. Glen's remarks felt like a rejection of that idea. And Willie didn't forget how Glen always kept his distance. One overlooked moment made things worse. In the late 70s, Glen was asked to record a duet with Willie for a TV special. He turned it down, calling the concept too raw for syndication. Willie took that personally. It felt like Glenn saw him as unfit for prime time. After that, their chances of working together faded. Their careers went in different directions, but the quiet friction remained. Glenn stayed safe in the spotlight. Willie kept pushing boundaries. Their rivalry was never loud, but it reflected a deeper shift in country music. One side clung to the image, the other to the soul. Willie stood his ground and kept moving. Number 8. Julio Iglesias. In 1984, Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias shocked the world with a hit that nobody saw coming. To All the Girls I've Loved Before was a global success, topping country charts and earning airplay across Europe. The blend of Willie's rugged country tone and Julio's romantic flair struck a chord with millions. On the surface, it looked like a perfect match of two legends. But behind the scenes, things were far less friendly. Soon after the song's release, tension started brewing. At a public event following the hit's success, Willie reportedly approached Julio to speak, but was brushed off. In another instance, during a press interview, Julio completely avoided mentioning their collaboration. It wasn't just forgetfulness, it felt intentional. That cold shoulder didn't sit well with Willie, who believed in giving credit and showing gratitude. For Willie, this wasn't about ego, it was about respect. He'd always treated collaborators as equals, whether they were legends or newcomers. Julio's refusal to acknowledge the song or even engage with Willie publicly felt elitist and dismissive. Willie didn't respond with anger, but the disappointment lingered. He quietly stepped away from the idea of ever working with Julio again. A backstage comment from Willie later hinted at how he really saw the duet. He told someone close to him that the song was business, not brotherhood. That simple line revealed the truth. Willie never felt the connection was real. It was a project built for charts, not chemistry. And when it came time to support the song as a team, Julio disappeared. They never collaborated again, and Willie never pushed for it. The partnership faded as fast as it rose. For Willie, it wasn't about how big the song was, it was about how he was treated after. He believed music was personal, and the cold shoulder from Julio made the whole thing feel hollow. The hit lives on, but the bond behind it never did. What looked like a powerful crossover turned out to be a one-time deal with no heart behind it. Willie walked away quietly, but the sting stayed. For someone who valued loyalty and humility, this was a moment he never forgot. Number 7. Neil Young. Neil Young and Willie Nelson had similar reputations as rebels, storytellers, and musical outlaws. But when it came to playing together, things didn't go as smoothly. At one point, in the mid-1980s, Neil reportedly criticized Willie's guitar playing, calling it too basic or lacking tight structure. This wasn't just a casual opinion. It was enough to stop a potential live session in its tracks. A producer involved in the project later shared that Neil was thrown off by Willie's loose, offbeat timing. To Neil, musical precision mattered. Willie, though, had never chased technical perfection. His guitar, Trigger, had been with him for decades and was known for its raw, personal tone. Willie's playing style mixed jazz, country, and blues in a way that didn't follow standard rules. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being real. Willie didn't respond directly to Neil's critique, but it stayed with him. Years later, he made a small comment in his album liner notes. "It ain't fancy, but it's honest." That line said everything. Willie never claimed to be a guitar god, he just played what he felt. And to him, that mattered more than any critic's opinion. Their failed session never turned into a public feud, but the distance was clear. Willie never worked closely with Neil again. They continued to share stages at benefit shows, but the creative spark between them never reignited. Willie respected Neil's talent, but the personal connection faded. They were the country's power duo, but even legends fought. Their friendship nearly cracked from too much trust and not enough structure. Number 6. Waylon Jennings. Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings were two pillars of outlaw country, and their friendship shaped an entire movement. But behind the scenes, their bond was filled with sharp disagreements and creative tension. From early on, they approached music and life very differently. Willie trusted instinct and flow, while Waylon demanded structure and control. These differences didn't end their friendship, but they often clashed hard over how to move forward. One of their earliest arguments came when Willie warned Waylon not to go to Nashville. He believed the industry would try to control him and kill his freedom. Waylon ignored the advice and built his career there anyway, proving he could succeed on his own terms. That decision created a quiet rift between the two that never fully closed. It wasn't betrayal, but it added tension to their creative partnership. In the studio, their styles collided constantly. Willie liked to record in a single take, trusting the moment and embracing imperfections. Waylon, on the other hand, wanted clean tracks, multiple takes, and tight production. In his memoir, Waylon admitted that Willie's laid-back attitude drove him crazy. Still, that push and pull led to magic on records like Waylon and Willie and Mama's Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. Touring together only added to the strain. Waylon's fiery mood clashed with Willie's calm. Fights happened, not out of hate, but because they both cared deeply about the music. Willie once said they argued like an old married couple, always bouncing between affection and frustration. But no matter how heated things got, they always found a way back. Despite the friction, their work together left a permanent mark on country music. Their tension wasn't a weakness, it was the engine behind their best collaborations. They challenged each other, pushed boundaries, and never played it safe. In the end, their friendship lasted decades, proving that even the hardest creative partnerships can become legendary. Willie might have disliked parts of Waylon's approach, but he never stopped respecting the man. And through all the bickering, they always had each other's backs when it mattered most. Number 5. Ray Price. Willie Nelson and Ray Price were longtime collaborators, but their friendship hit a strange bump in the road thanks to a very angry rooster. The story goes that Price had a prized rooster roaming his ranch, loud, aggressive, and oddly protective of his hens. After the bird reportedly killed 2 of the hens, Ray's wife asked Willie, who was visiting, to take care of the problem. Willie didn't hesitate. He shot the rooster, thinking it was a quick favor, not a lasting problem. Ray Price, however, was furious when he found out. He had raised the bird and saw it as more than just a farm animal. In a fit of anger, he told people he would never sing another Willie Nelson song again. For a while, their friendship froze over, with neither one speaking about the situation in public. Willie later joked about it, but the tension lingered behind the scenes. What made it worse was how the story spread through Nashville like wildfire. In an industry filled with egos and pride, even something as small as a rooster could spark real offense. Willie felt bad, not about what he did, but about how it affected their relationship. Still, he stood by his decision, saying the rooster had crossed a line by killing hens. It was a wild moment in a long friendship that had already weathered its share of arguments. Years later, the story came back up when Ray Price, was writing his autobiography. At first, he considered leaving it out to avoid embarrassment. But Willie personally asked him to keep it in. He said it was too funny, too real, and too much a part of their story to be forgotten. That request showed how Willie handled even the strangest fights, with honesty and humor. In the end, the rooster incident didn't break their bond. It just added another chapter to a friendship full of music, missteps, and moments you couldn't make up. Number 4. Ed Sheeran. In the mid-2010s, Willie Nelson's team noticed something strange. Ed Sheeran released a track that shared striking similarities with an unreleased Willie demo from years earlier. The song explored deep themes: aging, regret, life on the road, and the sting of lost love. For fans of Willie's writing, the emotional phrasing and structure felt way too close. It didn't sound like a coincidence. It sounded like someone had heard it before. Whispers began to swirl around Nashville. According to insiders, Sheeran might have gotten access through shared producers and studio engineers. While nothing illegal was proven, Willie's circle raised concerns. At least one veteran engineer who had worked with both artists admitted the bridges of both songs were nearly identical. Though no official lawsuit followed, legal teams from both sides were in quiet contact for weeks. Eventually, a private meeting between Sheeran and Nelson helped cool the situation. Neither artist wanted a messy public feud. Willie, always focused on the music more than the headlines, chose not to escalate. But he didn't forget. He saw it as another case of the industry treating older legends as open sources for inspiration without proper credit. The track never saw a re-release, and Sheeran never publicly mentioned it. To most fans, the incident flew under the radar. But for those close to Willie, it left a lasting impression. The message was clear: even legends get copied, and sometimes the respect isn't mutual. Willie moved on, but that moment stayed tucked in the background of his long, respected career. A quiet reminder that not all thefts happen in the spotlight. Number 3. Merle Haggard. The talk of Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard not getting along never came from them. It came from outsiders. Fans and the press often pointed out their opposite styles. Merle was a hard-edged blue-collar storyteller with roots in prison and pain. Willie, on the other hand, floated through the industry with his calm, cosmic outlaw persona. To some, that contrast looked like quiet tension, but it wasn't the full picture. The truth is, the two shared deep respect. They recorded 6 albums together, toured side by side, and turned Poncho and Lefty into a classic. If there were disagreements, they never let it stop the music. Merle was more structured. Willie was more free-flowing. That difference sometimes sparked frustration, but it never turned to hate. A rare deleted interview segment from the early 2000s revealed Merle admitting, "Sometimes I wanted to shake him, but I'd never stop singing with him." That line says everything. Whatever moments of stress existed between them, the music always came first. Willie once said that Merle had the voice of the working man, and Merle said Willie had the soul of a poet. Forget musicians. Willie's real feud was with Uncle Sam, and it cost him everything but his fans. Number 2, the IRS. Out of all the names tied to Willie Nelson's feuds, none hit harder than the IRS. In 1990, the Internal Revenue Service delivered a crushing blow, a $16.7 million tax bill that nearly ruined him. The debt wasn't just a financial scare. It led to the government seizing most of his belongings, including his ranch, his beloved tour bus, and even some of his prized guitars. Unlike feuds with other musicians, this one reached into every part of his life. What made the situation worse was that Willie didn't personally handle his taxes. His advisors did. But the IRS didn't care. They wanted their money, and they came hard. Willie was left with almost nothing, a country legend forced to start over. Instead of folding, he fought back the only way he knew how, with music. He released the IRS tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories, an acoustic album sold directly to fans, with the profits going straight to the IRS. It was a bold move, and it worked. Fans flooded in with support, not just buying the album, but donating and attending his shows to help him climb out of debt. The IRS tried to crush him, but they only helped solidify his image as a folk hero who wouldn't quit. Willie once joked backstage at Farm Aid, "The IRS made me more famous than on the road again." That moment summed up his attitude. He stayed calm, cracked jokes, and turned pain into progress. By 1993, he had paid off most of the debt, proving that even a government agency couldn't break him. This wasn't just a financial battle, it was a public reminder of how resilient he was. The IRS may not be a person, but they belong on this list for one reason. They messed with Willie Nelson and lost. Number 1. Johnny Cash. Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash were close friends for decades, but even the strongest bonds can crack. Their rift started over a simple promise. Willie allegedly offered Cash a song, then ended up recording it himself. Cash didn't take it lightly. He felt blindsided and deeply disappointed, especially since trust meant everything between them. For months, they kept their distance, avoiding each other at shows and public events. This wasn't about fame or charts. It was about respect. Cash had always stood by Willie during rough patches, so the broken promise felt like a personal blow. Willie didn't say much publicly, but the silence between them spoke volumes. In country music circles, everyone noticed the cold tension. What once was an unshakable duo now felt split down the middle. The turning point came thanks to Kris Kristofferson. As a friend to both, he stepped in and arranged a private sit-down, reminding them that their friendship and music meant more than any one disagreement. Willie and Cash eventually patched things up. Their reunion was quiet but genuine, leading to renewed collaboration as part of the Highwaymen. Despite that bump in the road, they moved forward without holding on to resentment. Cash later admitted that hurt feelings fade when you remember the good. This chapter shows that even legends like Willie and Johnny can clash, but real friendship knows how to heal. Their bond outlasted the mistake, reminding fans that loyalty and humility still matter in a business driven by ego. And thanks to their reconciliation, the world got one of country music's most iconic supergroups. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.